Hi, I'm Jane, and this week we're gonna shift gears a little. We're gonna talk a little bit about human reality and longevity on Earth, and I do have some more pragmatic government topics later in the night. But we aren't going to be on the air very long because both of our guests are traveling in the next week. One is going to the Philippines and one is going to North Carolina or somewhere like that for the NAACP convention. So tonight's topic is, I'm going to read the title if I can find it. Oh, shoot, I can't. If you believe in transubstantiation, the body and blood of Christ turning into flesh and blood from wafers and grape juice, then you can believe that you're going to heaven if you're riding a Texas flood wave. And what I mean by that is, I was listening to a Catholic radio show today and they said transubstantiation occurs during the communion service right after they read the words of Jesus or after the priest utters the words of the communion ritual. And I started thinking about, okay, think about every Catholic church in America alone. They buy these little solid wafers that are whitish, brownish. They buy either wine or grape juice. And how could all those store-bought wafers turn into Jesus's flesh? And how could all the wine turn into Jesus's blood when he was only one man who sacrificed himself once for all mankind? It's not like they have 10,000 liters of Jesus' blood sitting up in heaven to trickle down. So what I'm trying to say is that the belief comes in the fact of the human mind believing that it's blood and flesh. It can never be actual blood and flesh based on corporeal substance, the essence of fleshly substance. It just can't, they won't be able to do it. It's impossible. And technically, you don't need that kind of miracle to honor the communion. You're just honoring the remembrance of Jesus giving his life for us. And I was thinking about the Texas floods that came suddenly this week. They rose 23 feet in 45 minutes. That's like the size of a small high rise. Like, just think of four men piled up, 6 foot, 6 foot, 6 foot, and 6 foot. It would be a tall building, and it wiped out all kinds of things like trailer parks, cars. It swallowed up cars. I saw it swallow up a tractor. It swallowed up people. One of the girls in the camp was carried down the river 6 miles, and she ended up in debris, and 2 young adult women found her. And if people don't believe this is the end times, then they're really crazy, because these are the types of monumental natural disasters God was talking about in Matthew 24. So with that, I'm going to yield to John because Don's eating his dinner, and Don can jump in when he's ready. And by the way, I'm wearing Caitlin Clark tonight, Iowa 22. Okay, John. Did you get transformed to heaven? Wait, you're on hold. Just a minute. I have to take John off hold.
It's coffee time.
So, did you get cut off?
Hello?
Did you get cut off?
Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Hey, done. All right.
Can you guys hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, now you missed my whole intro.
Oh, I couldn't hear the intro.
That's because you somehow ended up on hold when I called Don.
Just tell them again real quick. You can do a recap, a summary, a synopsis.
Okay, so I was trying to say I was listening to Catholic radio on my way to work, and they were talking about during communion when the pastor or priest says he utters the words of Jesus that happened in Bible times. You know, here's my blood given for you. Here's my flesh given for you. At the time that the priest says that, the wafers and wine automatically transform to Jesus's flesh and blood.
Like transcription.
It's called transubstantiation, and the topic of the show is believing the impossible. So how could Jesus's blood and flesh be created that many times throughout history without them running out? And secondly, do they have to use Jesus's body and blood, or can't they just honor the ritual of remembering him and his sacrifice? And then I tied it into the floods that came suddenly and swallowed up people, cars, and tractors and boats at 23 feet higher than the river was supposed to be. So the moral of the story is if you believe the impossible, you're going to heaven. But some things you do have to question in life. You just can't take things hook, line, and sinker. And the only thing I disagree with the Catholic Church about is the true transubstantiation. Now, I know there's miracles that have happened during communion, and I also don't believe that people should be banned from using in vitro fertilization because some parents who are childless want to make babies. Hello?
Yeah, Don, you want to take that one? Mr. Baby Maker?
All I can say is damn. Well, a question or set of questions or multitude.
It's kind of like okay, the world has gone nuts. And like Don said last week, let's not focus on 45 and 47 this week. So a biblical flood entered Texas, like biblical proportions, killing people downstream, upstream. I mean, the Mexicans came to help.
Right. And the thing is that they're complaining that people are saying that it was due for that white hilltop area, and that's what the conservatives are saying, that they're complaining that other people are saying that they deserved it in a way because it was God's plan or whatever case may be. So, you know, you've heard me say many times on the show that I wouldn't live in the Midwest or the South, primarily because of weather situations.
Amen.
Well, in the Midwest, the weather comes on suddenly a lot of times.
It does everywhere. I mean, that's why everybody has a tornado cellar. Because those tornadoes, if they pop up at night, good luck.
So this guy from Kansas died an hour and a half north of here in a big waterfall in the Chattahoochee State Park. he was with a group of friends and no one could save him.
There's a lot of common belief systems. Some people believe that, I believe in destiny. I think that there aren't accidents in life, but some people believe everything that happens is because God made it happen. If you're late to work, that was the Lord's will. If you trip on a street corner, that was God's will. I don't view that just pragmatically. Jesus said, "It rains on the just and the unjust." Good things and bad things happen to all of us. And in their situation, in Texas, they're known for having gully washers. And basically, the dirt, it's like desert. It's very hard because it doesn't rain, so it gets very, almost like concrete to a certain degree. So when rain hits, and they have these outbursts of rain at various times that just, they'll pour, 5 to 10 inches like in half an hour. And it's, stuff that in California we don't know. A lot of states we don't know, but over there they get gully washers. It's part of it because of the Gulf there, the Gulf of America, as some call it.
God!
And so within literally half an hour or so, or an hour, you have runoff that's incredible. Because normally instead of the water sinking in, it's just piling up and sliding. So you're getting these 20-foot walls, 30-foot walls of water. I mean, it's like a tsunami coming. So I think in this situation, I don't think it was God's judgment or wrath, or they had it in for the camp mystic, and people were trying to, correlate some kind of hidden agenda or judgment. Just anyone in that area is going to get flooded, and if you don't have the proper elevation, you're going to die. And that's just anyone. So like when it snows, is that God trying to kill people? No, it's just you have to understand weather patterns and just plan for it. And sometimes you can't plan for everything. Earthquakes happen, lightning happens, and it is what it is. But when people try to line it up to this is God was meaning to do this or that, I think when you get to the end of your life, you'll get to see a little bit more perspective. It's like, that thing that looked really bad was good, and the thing that looked really good was bad. And my pastor used to say, we won't know until all the days are counted which ones were good or bad till we stand before the Lord. And that's a good way to look at stuff.
So, like, I think that things like volcanoes, they're doomed to erupt at some point. But I heard this Guadalupe River hasn't flooded that bad for 40 years. And people just forget. They don't remember. Like, there's the Red River Valley between Minnesota and North Dakota that floods like every other year. There's a river that goes north there. I can't remember if it's the Missouri River, but anyway, it happens every other year, so they remember. But this flood, I saw like all these cars, they were parked on the street, and they all started floating because the water came in 20 feet high in between two tall condominiums, and it was pretty biblical what happened.
Yeah, but that area is those places, even if it's every 40 years or every year they have bad floods. Now this is mega bad, but But the thing is, you take Southern California, every year or every other year we have Malibu fires, and this year we had the Palisades, and it was the worst thing that ever happened, and ever. But specifically the last 40 or 50 years. And someone could say, well, God was judging that. Well, maybe God should have started with Hollywood and wiped that thing out. Like Malibu gets it, but Hollywood Hills really doesn't get fires. It ends there because you've got asphalt,
more vegetation.
You've got modern, infrastructure, fire department. Out in Malibu, it's a bunch of hills with dried up vegetation and mountainsides that fire guys can't fight very effectively. And then you have Santa Ana and winds coming in. 60 to 100 miles an hour, and it just shoots it within an hour or two. It just goes miles and miles. Where in Hollywood Hills, it's over. The wind passes over it. It's a passover, as it will. So you don't get that kind of wind tunnel event happening in the Hollywood Hills like you do on the Malibu and Topanga Canyon. So, again, sometimes God puts judgment on a culture, but it is really rare. It's not. I just think in general, you're just going to have when an earthquake happens, is God judging us? I don't think so. I think there'll be plagues and major disturbances in the revelatory times when the trumpets and the judgments and the bowls of judgment are unleashed. But I think it's going to be very profound. Like people are going to know it. People will be able to connect the dots. This stuff is just every year. I don't think you can connect the dots on this one.
On which one? On the blood or the fire?
Both of them. In other words, you're going to have preachers come in. Like, I'll give you an example.
The fires were man-made. That meant that man potentially intervenes with God's wishes.
Yeah. But, there's going to be a time where preachers are talking about judgments of God. We need to repent. I think, and when we're talking biblical, we're talking stars falling to from the sky, third of the water, fish dying. It's going to be, very, kind of, it's like what happened to Iran is going to happen on a mass scale across a country where it just gets wiped out. I mean, like, to a degree where nothing works right, like a tsunami that wipes, or like an earthquake that California, half of it falls in the ocean, or you get a tsunami that wipes out hundreds of thousands. Like real catastrophe is like you go to Thailand or one of these places, and they get stuff happens, they'll kill 200,000 or 300,000 people. You get an earthquake that kills, 500,000 people, kind of stuff. What we have here is like, 20 people died, or 50 or 100. That's not biblical.
Well, the water raising 23 feet in less than an hour is.
Yeah, but again, how many people died out of that?
78.
78.
No, I think it's.
How can you compare?
I think it's 80 now.
How can you compare it to 200,000 in a culture that doesn't believe in God?
It's 178.
But compare that to 200,000 in countries like where there's major earthquakes. That's like less than 1%. It's like one person dying versus 10,000.
You can't always compare it that way because.
Oh, well, then you guys.
So like a school shooting, if 25 kids die, that's a lot.
Yeah, but again, if I go to a stadium, right, with a weapon, and I shoot up 20 people, you go, that's a disaster. That's terrible. But biblical would be, I go in there and I kill 50,000 people in Dodger Stadium. Everyone dies, or 30,000. Half of the people in there die. That's biblical. That's a judgment. That's like something. It's a statement where you go, whoa, this does just not happen. No, like what's going on here? But random, 100 people, 50, 20. I mean, it's traumatic, yes, but on the mass, not really.
Okay, can I say something?
No. Yes, you can.
We're not just talking about statistics. Like, I saw a boy from Gaza today who was fitted for fake legs. He now has 2 metal legs that he walks around on their, like their metal poles with feet.
Right.
And I just think in the last year, there's been so many Ukrainians dying. There's been so many people from Gaza dying. There's these rando disasters everywhere. Like, I think in terms of macro, like, I don't think my conscience can take anymore.
Well, you can take a lot more, but let's take Gaza.
No, I can't. I feel like then I have survivor's guilt.
Let's take Gaza for a second, okay? 1,000 Jews got killed October 6th or whatever date it was, right? It's terrible, right? Terrible. 1,000, and they were paraded around. It wasn't just killing. Like, oh, I killed someone. It's like, oh, I'm going to drag the body around. I'm going to wave it. I'm going to take selfies. We're going to rape the body. Everyone's going to dance and celebrate. Now, that's a different kind of killing. But then the Jews' response is, we're going to wipe out Hamas. The 50,000 some people, some soldiers, sure. But a lot of innocent people got killed in this. But here's the thing, is why were they getting killed? Because Hamas wanted to genocide Jews. And this has been an ongoing, it's a spiritual, biblical confrontation. So 50,000 people and more counting get wiped out. So to me, that's a profound statement of some kind of biblical, like the prophecy that Babylon will arise, Israel arises, and in a day, it gets wiped out. Now I don't think that's what happened here, but that's the kind of stuff that's going on in that area. It's for a religious, reason, a spiritual battle. That is a statement, I think.
Okay, but Trump said on the news this week that he was going to relocate all those survivors in Gaza to new housing somewhere else.
That's the sales pitch, but they don't want to go. Is this a thing? So
bullshit. If he gave them a high rise in Jordan, you don't think they'd go?
No. Jordan doesn't want to either. Did you know the majority
They don't want to go, Jordan. They don't have better facilities than where they're at.
The majority, because Jordan and those countries know that it's going to be trouble because Hamas still runs the show. So these terrorists, whether it's Hezbollah, ISIS, Hamas, all these different groups, they know it's going to come to their country, and they don't want that. And the majority, like I was talking to some people who Saudi Arabia, even Iran, they're happy that the U.S. bombed out the nuke because they know that the Ayatollah is crazy. And all these, they were like Syria, Lebanon, they're like, oh, thank God that, you're solving one problem for us. They're not like warning what happened in Iran.
Okay, well, this is what I have to say. There's people around the world that are trying to help these crises in minor ways. Like I told John last night, there was a 12-year-old boy in Denmark or the Netherlands who painted fancy, elaborate Easter eggs, and he raised $15,000 for the war in Ukraine. I think he wanted to give it to a specific group, like children who were orphaned by the war, and they coordinated so he could. But I just think that now the Supreme Court voted that Trump is allowed to dismantle every federal agency in the way he sees fit, unless it comes to a point where the federal agencies are functioning poorly and not completing their tasks. So now they're just giving him a green light. And Ketanji Brown is the only one who dissented on the Supreme Court case that was supposed to be handled by the lower courts, but was taken by the Supreme Courts.
My understanding is basically Donald Trump had call it a mandate. His platform was I'm going to deport people who are here legally. There's the problem. Is what people should do when they break the law like that, they should say, you're right. I don't want to get in trouble. Let me leave. Let me self-deport.
I'm not talking about deportation.
If I had a felony and a warrant, and they said, you need to get out of the hightail out of America, it's like, hey, I'm going. Now,
but we're not talking about that. I'm talking about 30,000 people being cut from agriculture, the Department of Commerce, cancer research, the Department of Veterans. He was going to cut 80,000, and now he changed it back to 30,000. I'm talking about displacement of Americans who have federal jobs that they like.
Well, here's the thing. He's in charge of the federal. What they're doing is smaller court judges, guys on the corner, if you want to call it, not Supreme Court, but just any circuit. All that's happening is his opposition is going to any lower circuit court and saying, we want to contest this. So everything he does, they're throwing a lawsuit in there. And basically what the Supreme Court is saying, listen, he's got to do his job. Now, if he's doing a major thing that's wrong, impeach him or take it to Supreme Court and we'll overrule it. But every time, someone crosses the street wrong, they're taking it to court. They wanted to go through the whole process of 2 or 3 years, every situation to lock up in court. And basically, the Supreme Court is saying, no, that's like he's the president. Some dude running in a small court in, whether it's San Francisco or Dallas or wherever you go to one place like where they don't like Trump, and it's like, I want to, like, let's say I sue Donald Trump. I'm going to sue him, and you have to shut down the whole government. It's like, no, John Yoder is not that important. So like, let it be a major player, major arena, go after him. And so I, to that degree, whether it's Biden or Trump, like, let the president do his thing, and if he's wrong, take it to higher power.
Now, they did have a collaborative, the lawsuit concerning changing, because Congress can only approve the disposal of departments or the creation of departments. So it was a large number of nonprofits and government agencies that took that lawsuit to the lower courts, and they were devastated when they couldn't win. They could not win.
It is devastating. If the whole country goes bankrupt and we lose everything, and the whole government, we default and we collapse economically, everyone's going to die. So if you throw, a few people overboard and Titanic, like Titanic's sinking, right? And you take 100 or 200 people and you say, we're throwing them off the boat. That's inhumane. Okay, well, everyone's going to drown and die. So that's kind of your choices. It's like, do you save the ship or do you throw a few people over? Either way, it's pretty.
Do we have any volunteers?
Well, we're thinking. Let's start with the illegals. Let's start with the people in the hood.
That was everybody on the Titanic was illegal.
There we go.
They were coming over. They were illegal as hell.
There you go.
Guess what happened today in Minnesota? UCare, the largest medical provider for people at the lowest level of poverty, like the indigent members of society, they broke their contract with county governments. So like the people who were getting like Medicare and Medicaid, they can no longer get it through UCare. So all those poor people are going to have to wait 3 months till another HMO or medical agency decides to take on the burden.
For open enrollment.
Trump has a new program for them. It's not UCare, it's FUCare.
Well, guess what? I work at a company where 90% of the people we take in our crisis center are on UCare. So
Yes.
what if I no longer get clients that qualify medically to come to our center? Then I won't have a job.
Here's a question to that, Jane. The first settlers that came over to America.
Did they have insurance or did they cut down woods?
Did they have? Well, no, they were settlers. An illegal alien is when you go to an established country that has borders and government, and you go there and then you enter the premises, you have to apply. But there weren't.
Indian nation had borders and government.
They didn't have good borders.
The only problem they had back then was gonorrhea.
So that's what they brought over with them because they're nasty, like the slaves and the felons and vagrants and vermin and their own.
Well, that's what happens when you get people from Ghana. From Ghana, you get gonorrhea.
Oh, Jesus. Okay.
Did you know in Belize that the first large populations in Belize, the colonialists, were Irish prisoners?
That's what I said.
That's where they took the Irish prisoners and put them in Belize.
Right.
Now we'll put them in the swamp in Florida now.
Yeah.
The alligator swamp.
Just remember, John said all the Irish scum should be put in the alligator Alcatraz.
All the redheads. There you go.
Did you know the Bible said the first shall be last and the last shall be first? So someday Mar-a-Lago's going to turn into alligator swamp.
That's why us Africans are just waiting for you white folks to tear things up so that we can rebuild it in our own image.
I've had an interesting week, but just to recap that thought. So basically, the issue I think that we're having here, especially that it bothers Jane, and it should bother everyone. I mean, we want everyone to have health care and a happy life. But the problem is, what we're saying is, it's a right. Like, you have to have it. And everyone has to pay, like a socialist idea. Everyone has to pay for it to make sure you get it. And I just don't think that's an American concept. It's like when people came over, you figure out your health care, your living, your food, like, it's not guaranteed. You have the freedom to pursue it. And that's the great thing about America. You can look for your freedom. You can look for your the ability to say what you want. But, the fact that you have to have health care and you have to have a place to stay and you have to have personal property, it's not really guaranteed in the Constitution. Like, you just got to, figure it out. And we've gotten spoiled with it.
So I have the right to pursue food. I can go in a strawberry patch and take like 75 strawberries.
Well, the socialist communist, it has to be that you have to have food. So everyone who has food, we have to share it, no matter what. Whether you work or not, we all just have to. I'm going over to your house tonight, Jane, and I'm going to go through your cabinets, and because I need to have as many Fruit Loops as you do, or whatever. That's socialism, right? And whereas a capitalist will say, hey, if you want some, go out and work and get some. I have a friend, a brother, a black man who's staying with us for, like this week. And his grandma pays for everything. And he goes from here, and then we've driven him all over the place. And, I was telling him, well, I guess grandma's going to pay for it. And if she doesn't, then we cover it. I said, we just go to the money tree, right? The money tree's there. He doesn't work. He's 22. He's strong.
You told me about him. That's pathetic.
And it's just like, but he wasn't. He was raised by grandma, so mommy didn't raise him. Daddy wasn't around, and basically he doesn't have a male mentor influence, and he's used to being taken care of. And so I can't fault him. Like, he grew wild in that way. He's a nice kid, but the point is, he doesn't think responsibly. He's just like, oh, I'll go somewhere. And like right now, he's out. He's supposed to go back to San Antonio, right by where the floods are. He's supposed to go tomorrow night. Should have left Sunday, but he didn't have his ticket paid for in advance by grandma. And the $260 ticket was $900 this weekend. So, we have to wait till Wednesday. Now he's supposed to. He lost his phone, and he had to.
Tell him to go back one way. I don't want him to sucker you out of money.
He could have flown back for, I don't know, like $100, but he doesn't have his ID. He didn't get that taken care of the last year, so he has to go back to San Antonio, get his ID paperwork, and get that together. And so he can't fly because he doesn't have real ID. He's supposed to have his suitcases and luggage ready because we're going to take him to the train station tomorrow at 10. So I told him, okay, a couple days before, get your suitcases, pack it all up, get ready to go. He's still waiting for his suitcases to arrive, maybe tomorrow. I said, you're going to be in the middle of the day, no suitcases. We're going to have to run around to the store. Grandma's probably going to have to buy some suitcases at 6 o'clock, and they're going to run you to the train. Just lack of planning. But the point is, it's entitlement. It's a way of thinking. Like,
so where are his
Just enable them. I don't even know what.
John, you are kind of like, you always find people in a pickle.
Grandma's paying for this stuff, and the point is, we're getting them on the train. So.
Tell him to go one way and get a damn job.
Well, we've discussed this over and over. It's like, listen, you just man up. And I told him next time you come back to town, he doesn't have housing here, but if he gets stuck in between, like for a week or 3 days, that's what we come in. So, he's stuck, 2 or 3 days till he gets this other housing deal he's working on. But I told him, when you come back, you gotta have your real ID and all that stuff settled. If not, you can't stay here. Like you need the pressure to get it done. And same thing with job, you need to get a job, and then focus. But this weekend, for the second week in a row, I had angry black young man try to attack me. I mean, physically, like he wants to stop me just from sharing the gospel, and just shut that stuff down. I don't want to hear it, blah blah blah. And I go, hey, I have the right to be out here. It's called freedom of speech. I have the right to say this. And you know what lights them up? What lights them up big time is I go, Martin Luther King marched for this right that we have the freedom to speak and do, and to voice ourselves and to protest and to do whatever. And boy, once they hear Martin Luther King coming out of a white Hispanic mouth, they are just ready to send me to the moon. No love.
Okay, because Martin was all about love, so he's out of pocket.
They just I don't know, maybe they're Malcolm X kind of guys. Maybe I don't know.
Those are the warriors too, because for the most part, we're talking about the transcendentalism, and that's what this show is supposed to be all about, right, James?
Transubstantiation, the belief. Do you guys believe that the act of communion turns Jesus's body and blood into his own flesh?
It's symbolism. It's not an actual thing.
Well, the Catholics believe that it does. They believe that it turns into blood and flesh.
It's like the blood on the goat on the front of the doorway. Those are the same type of symbolism. One's Old Testament, one's New Testament. But for the most part, the symbolism is what they're talking about. I was at a house today.
Okay, the symbolism of my show had to do more about we're living in times where there's disasters every day.
There's always disaster.
Wars, pestilence.
That's what the earth
and when is our number gonna be up? And
it's not.
Can you measure not always the bad people live long sometimes, and the good people die young. So the length of your life isn't always determined by how good you are.
John just said it right when he said, "Who knows what is good and bad."
Yeah, I think if you have a tsunami or an earthquake and it wipes out all of up to Hollywood, right? The hill, it wipes it all out. And and it's just only hits that area, right, or something. You go, probably a judgment. If you see like the whole coastline wiped out, California, San Francisco wiped out, that's like a judgment type of thing. That's where you go, you know what? We're Sodom and Gomorrah, Hollywood, and San Francisco. It's morally, we pollute the whole world, and I think that would be a judgment type of thing. But we're talking hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of people. We're talking cities totally leveled, where it's wiped out. But when you just get an isolated thing, I don't think that's really like a judgment.
Yeah, 200 people in a flood is not necessarily a judgment.
It's not biblical. And that's when people say a biblical, they mean like Sodom and Gomorrah. The whole place is wiped out, right? The whole everything. It's like literally like the flood. It just whatever humanity is there, it's gone. That's biblical judgment. But going to the transubstantiation, I can't even say it. The point is with that is there's two issues. One is if it really turns to blood, we're not supposed to drink the blood. That the life is in the blood. That's Old Testament law. So you're not supposed to drink the blood of the sacrifice. Number two, and then same thing with the bread. If it really turns into bread, then I should be able to like live forever off of it. It would be very fattening. I mean, we give people these little crackers. That's really not communion. You should have like real bread, break it off, and
It's the symbolism.
live off of it. But he doesn't say do it in memory of me. Do it in memory of me. He doesn't say this. It's so they try to take it very literal that it turns into blood. I mean, you can drink that wine all you want. You're not going to have a blood clot with it.
Yeah, but you don't have to put a goat's blood on the front door either. So those are kind of things that they're just to look at as a symbolic situation, our human, more or less human condition.
But they're eating the dogs. How about dog blood?
Well, that's because they're there, and so you have an opportunity to have possum. You look at Beverly Hillbillies, you think possum soup. Nah, them fools really eat that shit down there.
Don't they do voodoo stuff in Haiti with the blood of the dogs and the cats?
Oh yeah. That's a normal thing. So you can't get married without having your dog and eye of you.
Have some poi, right? I think that's dog in Filipino, I think.
I have a concept that you guys aren't thinking about. What if there's a small village in Nigeria of 40 Catholics and the Boko Haram goes and kills all those Catholics during a worship service, which is representative of what's recently happened in one town? So what if it's not 60,000 people? It's still devastating. And then I thought of in the bathroom when I was going, the second law of thermodynamics is entropy, where every year from the beginning of creation, there's more, the perfect patterns that God created dissipate and become disruptive and chaotic, and the system breaks down.
Well,
And those are normal conditions.
yeah, that's not very normal.
Understand that these are simply decay, and everything decays.
Yeah, it's not out of the ordinary. Like if you had the Crusades or the Inquisition, those are like major. Thousands of people, even hundreds of thousands of people wiped out. But like example, how many Muslims have been imprisoned in China? Does anyone have an idea of the number?
No.
1 million.
But I know that, what's that small minority in northwestern China where they're constantly being persecuted? It's a small religious group. I forget what they're called.
I know they hate the Hindus. They hate the Buddhists. They're always fighting like with the monks.
Here, I'll look it up on the internet.
But the point is, okay, so you have 40 people.
In the Nepalese, up in Nepal.
No.
The hut, they start with an H.
I'm gonna look it up. There's a specific name, and Suzette knows how to pronounce it right. The Uyghurs. The Uyghurs.
The Uyghurs.
Uyghurs.
And those are people in.
It's Uyghurs.
Right.
and the Turkic Muslims.
Yeah, exactly. Those are the guys in Syria.
And they've also persecuted the Tibetan Buddhists.
The Tibetans, yeah, they have a big problem with that. But like going back to like China and like the Muslims, which in a way I kind of go, hey, they had it coming. But the point is, 40 people. Imagine going outside and you have one block of people like killed. You have 30, 40 people on a block. Now imagine 1 million people. That is like driving for miles and miles across the valley or LA or San Francisco, all of San Francisco. Go to all of San Francisco. Everyone in there is in prison. How can you compare 40 people to a whole city like that? Or San Jose is about 1 million. It's uncomparable.
Okay, and I just want to say one thing before you guys do your conclusions. Entropy is a measure of the disorder or randomness within a system. A system with high entropy has many possible configurations, while a system with low entropy has fewer. The second law of thermodynamics dictates that the total entropy of an isolated system can only increase or stay the same. It cannot decrease spontaneously. Anyways, more people who turn away from God also creates entropy and disorganization. And in my third book, I describe Lauren as a lost molecule.
Oh. I think he's bigger than a molecule.
By the way, his birthday is July 11th on Friday. He will be 27.
Another weirdo.
Am I a weirdo, Don?
No, the cancer. You said July 11th?
Yes.
Cancers are weirdos.
Did you know they're a lot more sensitive than they let on?
That's what I'm talking about. They're, gosh.
They have a hard shell, and they hide their feelings, but deep down inside they're sensitive.
Are they crabby?
Yeah.
Yes. Their symbol is the crab.
Right. I made it funny.
So can you guys?
You make funny all the time, but I don't laugh.
Can you say?
It up, but she spiked it.
Can you guys sing happy birthday to my cookie?
Are you talking about your son, or are you talking about a body part?
My cookie Lauren, my nickname.
Okay, so that's your son. That's not your body part. Okay,
No, his other nickname is Butter Boo.
Oh, mercy.
No wonder he left.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Cookie. Happy birthday to you.
Now, is he supposed to hear that? And is that supposed to bring him closer to you or drive him away?
Well,
yeah, he might be in Uyghur in Syria. He might go.
To tell you the truth, we had an eavesdropper on our show, and I thought maybe it was him.
Well, you can only hope. I learned something new yesterday about Ukrainians.
What's that?
I was talking to him about Ukraine and Russia, and I knew he was European, but I thought he was more like kind of somewhere in the UK. Anyway, he said his parents and grandparents lived in Ukraine, in Kiev. I had no idea. Oh, it's a guy you've never met.
Zelensky?
Okay.
Zelensky was a Jew whose Jewish parents got killed in World War II.
Exactly.
Oh, wow. Well, it turns out we're talking about Russians and Ukrainians, and because the whole Russian story is like we've always Kiev or Ukraine's been part of Russia all the time, and we just want back what was ours. And he said historically, like we're talking hundreds of years ago, it's always been separate, and that they had their own people, their own language, their own people, and they were very proud, and that they got various times back and forth, they got conquered and got their freedom back. So that's how come they're very adamant about they want their own nation to stand, and that they actually were Ukrainians before they were Russians, because we had the Soviet Union.
But who are you talking about in the beginning where you said their relatives were from the Ukraine?
Just as my friend Troy, his parents and grandparents were original, first generation Ukrainians, or however you want to call it, or actually several generations. And the point he was saying is just that there's a misunderstanding that we think Russia's trying to get back what was theirs, but Ukraine has basically always been separate. And it's gone back and forth in the last century or a couple hundred years. It's been wrestling back and forth.
Yeah, I borrowed a book out of Kindle. It goes through the whole timeline. Around the 13th century, a group of Scandinavian Vikings overtook the Ukraine. And I can tell you the rest next week. I have to bone up on it now.
Are they going to get reparations?
No. But Kiev used to be called Kiev, and it used to be the capital of all of Russia.
You know that
before it moved to St. Petersburg.
Mexico.
I knew St. Petersburg was, but I didn't know Kiev.
Yeah, Kiev used to be the capital of Russia.
Well, that's kind of going against what John just said, that they were separate.
Okay, this is what happened. There was a lot, there was two guys in 2014 whose names started with Y. And one was a Russian loyalist and the other one wasn't. And there was inside defectors within each, certain parties that had alliances to Russia. So there's always been kind of corruption there.
It's an interesting mix, because what Troy was saying is you've got mixed blood. You've got Middle East, Persian blood. You've got European blood. You've got Mongolian blood. Because you got China, Russia, Europe, Middle East, and Africa. And basically all that stuff kind of mixes up, and so you get all kinds of language and culture that's mixed up in it. That's when you have a lot of exotic and extreme idealism. When you start looking at the cultures, very different. Especially when you mix the Byzantine tradition, and then you get the Mongolian or the Mongols or the Chinese. You throw that in; those are totally different belief systems. And then you go up north to the Euro and into the Russian part of it. So there's just it's like everyone needs to give reparations to everyone. So the point is, no one owes anyone anything. Yeah, we owe this person 100, but they owe us 100. And
are you just saying this now to egg on Don?
Oh yeah, I'm definitely trying.
Okay, just a minute, okay? I'm glad you missed it. Just a minute. I'm going to read something to you quick if I can find the section. So I checked out a book called The War on the Ukraine, and it had a timeline of all the, what year people overpowered them. I think I'll just wait till when John gets back from the Philippines. Now, I have a few announcements. Don is going out of town 5 days. By the time he comes back, Suzette will be here. But then John leaves for the Philippines in a week. So we're going to have a skeletal crew.
It depends. depends on what time I'm awake, because it's I believe it's a 15. I have to look it up. It's either 12 or 15-hour difference.
Well, you better
I think
bring.
it's 15.
Remember Singapore? Mike used to call from that part of the world.
Yeah, so it depends on example. Let's just say it's 15. So if you did it at 8:30, then 4 and 8, 12. So basically, it'd be about 10 or 11 in the morning in the Philippines, basically.
Okay, well,
It could be doable.
my schedule rotates now. Like, I have every other weekend off. John, is your phone gonna have any static overseas?
No idea. Well, usually, that's an interesting point because usually I talk over direct messenger Facebook, and the lines are pretty good, decent.
How about when you
Decent.
talk to Slick on the phone?
I talk to Africa. I talk to Philippines. It's pretty good. I don't know how it does on a group chat, but on single call, it's pretty cool.
Don, I proposed to John last night.
Yeah, she's
What is
she's
she?
like,
Oh,
Well, he doesn't have a big enough apartment for me, but I'm thinking maybe I should get married in my older age.
she says she's gonna drop 50 pounds and
Don thinks he wants to get married.
We're gonna
I just think
go
I
ahead.
have to lead her on so she loses the weight, and then she'll attract a very young guy who will spend a lot of money on her.
Oh, that's so altruistic. Oh.
We're gonna be like Bob Dylan and Joan Baez.
It'll
It'll
be transubstantiation.
It'll be like Anne Margaret, and Elvis, but Elvis is like engaged to, Priscilla, but she's 14. He's got to wait till she's 18, and Anne Margaret's hot and ready to go, but she does. But the Colonel doesn't want them together because it's going to mess up all his money and his contract.
Well, it's going to mess up his ass with Elvis. Colonel Elvis' ass.
Yeah. They could have been a pretty hot couple, though.
Maybe the California rental market will crash, and it'll go back to $700 for a 1-bedroom.
Where the fuck did that come from?
We don't know, but Anne Margaret's 84 and still kicking. She was at some June 28th. She was at like this party thing on Hollywood.
Yep. I've got her around.
How does she look?
She looks pretty decent.
Jane Fonda does too.
Okay.
I'll take Anne Margaret.
Okay, well, we've been on the air an hour already, and I want to go to bed. It's 1 o'clock here.
Okay.
Yeah, by the way, it would be 2 o'clock in North Carolina, so keep that in mind.
Yeah, so I'll call you before you leave, John, and I'll touch base with what city are you going to, Don? Raleigh?
Huh?
What city are you going to in North Carolina?
Charlotte.
Okay.
How many times I gotta say it?
You said it only once.
I said it twice.
I went to college in Durham.
Oh, okay. I mean, we're gonna be driving rental car, so I'd like to go to Raleigh, Durham, see Duke, and NC. So
I used to run on the Duke campus. So
okay.
can you go find my cookie in Roanoke?
Going quite that far.
Okay, let's pray. You don't have to pray now, but can you guys keep praying for my son?
I'm praying for you.
He's been gone for 8 months.
I've been praying for you.
Okay, that works.
Wow.
That works. Don, my book is on the air now. It's published.
I need to get some details on how to get it.
I have 3 books on Amazon, and you haven't bought a single one.
I said I need to see how I can get it.
I'll send the link to your email. I have your email.
All
All right. Have a good night, you guys.
There's one thing, though, that you have to do. You have to do a conversion before we can talk about marriage. You have to accept Donald Trump as your Lord and Savior.
Oh my gosh.
Hell to the fucking no.
And you have to wear an orange dress on your wedding day.
We're having Bernie Sanders. We're having Bernie Sanders on the cake.
Oh,
Oh, you can have Bernie on the cake, but it's got to be orange.
it's gotta be orange.
Good. Orange is one of my favorite colors.
Did you see where Goofball put his picture up in the women's wing of the White House in between all those ladies? This guy doofies. He's a doofus.
No, I didn't see that.
He's got to keep the women happy.
He's not exactly what he did.
The one on Epstein Island.
Your old women bless him.
Okay, bye, y'alls.
All right, I'll talk to you sometime in the next week or two.
Okay, God bless y'all. Safe,
Happy 4th of MAGA to you.
safe. I'm cutting off the live stream. Safe travels.
All right, thank you.
Bye.
Hey,